Hello and welcome to another episode of Kuvera Insights, where we talk to industry leaders to help manage our wealth better. Today we have a very special guest, Sachin. Sachin Trivedi is the Senior Vice President and Head of Research at UTI AMC. Sachin began his career in 2001 with UTI, so very long and successful innings at UTI, managing money in portfolio management and with a specialization in autos, utilities, capital goods, and logistics. Sachin is a BCom graduate from Narsi Monji in Mumbai, and he's also a CFA charter holder. So welcome, Sachin. Welcome to Kuvera. Really good to have you here.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks for inviting me.
So let's your one of your area of expertise is autos and logistics. So I think that's what we're going to talk about mostly today. So if I am our platform is mostly retail investors, right? If I'm a retail investor and I am looking at this sector today, for whatever reasons, I've read an article from somewhere, I've gotten a news bite that, we should look at autos, logistics, OEM, manufacturers, so on and so forth. What are the three things at the top of your mind that someone should know about this sector going in today?
Sure. Thanks. So, Gaurav, one very clear thing about this sector is that in auto, our penetration level, although in India may be featuring among the top 5 manufacturers in terms of how much we sell each year for, let's say, 4-wheeler, and even in 2-wheelers, we would be in that pack. But in terms of penetration, our penetration compared to some of the developing and developed nations is very low. Just to give you some number, for India, for 4-wheeler, the penetration is just 28 per 1,000 people. Compared to some of the developed nations, this number would be as high as 500 to 600. Some of the emerging markets itself, this number would be as high as 20 odd percent. So there is
but very that traffic can get worse still.
So the real opportunity, Gaurav, actually lies in a tier 2, tier 3 town. So not much opportunity except that upgradation in cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. Obviously, India needs more city for the development part, but the real opportunity actually lies in some of these outside tier 1 towns. And the whole aspiration is towards owning a new vehicle. Obviously, and apart from that, what we were selling 5 years back, a 4.5 lakh rupees vehicle, that number itself is going up materially. So one very clear message from me, Gaurav, is that there is a long-term growth opportunity within this auto OEM space. But what we have seen a challenging period in last 3 years, and that challenge is end result of that challenge is that absolute volume, if we were to talk about from peak of FY19 to FY21, and the challenge continues even this year, is that in 19 to 21, 2-wheeler volumes have declined somewhere in the ballpark range of 30%. 4-wheeler volumes are down by 20 odd percent. Let's say if you were to talk about cyclical industry, more in the nature MNHCV, that industry is down by more than 50%. So there are all sorts of reasons behind that, but in a nutshell, what has happened is that the income growth for the individuals have been quite muted. But India, as regulatory changes, has jumped multiple stages. So back in 17, we were in BS3 era. We've changed to BS4. We've jumped one entire range of series of BS5, and straight away in 21, we are in BS6 era. So there are insurance or let's say a safety related regulations which have also kicked in. So from, if I were to give you some numbers, is that let's say the 100cc or that executive related 2-wheelers, right? The cost has jumped by more than 30% for some of these vehicles. And what
this is in the last this is in the last 1 year or
this is in last 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
And to this there are challenges related to which are to do with the material or the raw material changes which are undergoing. So somebody enjoying a metro rally, somebody has to pay for that. So underlying this industry has faced those challenges as well. So what this has done, Gaurav, is that, and this is not just the two-wheeler, it's true for four-wheeler as well. So now let's say a twin, or let's say the front airbag is compulsory in a car, right? First was the driver, and now it's the other passenger, co-passenger as well. So there are a whole host of changes which have undergone, and so this is for the benefit of the buyer, but they have to pay upfront for that, and that's actually resulted in. So this entire cost escalation has pushed out many buyers from the market. So of course there is underlying change which is happening from the existing buyers, but so net result is that we've seen a sharp decline in the volume. Uh, and for the OEMs, other big challenges that they had to face the operating deleverage, they had to face the raw material pressures, and so therefore the profitability of these manufacturers has gone down much more than what we have seen the volume pressure. So from here on, what we are saying is that because it's a underpenetrated market, growth should come back with the growth revival. So the profitability of these manufacturers should jump back sharply. Obviously, this will take 2 to 3 years. We have seen this in past cycles. So we are a lot more comfortable about that possibility.
So one quick question, right? And this is for some of the most informed investors we have. What kind of pricing power do auto companies and auto ancillary companies have in India?
So Gaurav, they do enjoy pricing power. We have certainly seen this companies trying to exercise that pricing power in two-wheeler, and which is where the two-wheeler market has grown. For two-wheeler market has seen a lot of volume challenges. But let's say in markets like four-wheeler, manufacturers have it's a mixed pricing power and a mixed response from the manufacturers as well. Some of the leading players have seen, because their portfolio was not fresh, they have seen much more pricing pressures and much more profit challenges. But let's say new players with the fresh products.
And just to be clear, by fresh portfolio as such, and I think what you mean is that they're not launching newer models and newer variants at a certain cycle.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So fresh products, let's say in SUV, is they are able to take that pricing power. So, but yeah, once you announce a new product and the pricing, then you can only play around with something. You can't just keep increasing the price by 10% each year. And all these manufacturers have their own product cycle, and these product cycles are actually 4-year long. So, which is where manufacturers fall in their own cycle and they take time to respond. So yeah, the approach which we have seen most of them have adopted is basically a gradual price increase, because let's say we take a booking today, I can't certainly, because let's say the delivery will be a month later, I can't go and tell the customer that, hey, you have to pay 10% extra. So it's a delicate play which the manufacturers have to take, and there has been like I was saying, there's a sharp increase. So the profitability has also come under pressure for most of them. So what we will also see, Gaurav, from here on is that leading manufacturers will introduce newer and newer product that itself will result in more footfalls in the dealership and result in expanding the market.
Fantastic. From a retail perspective also, what's really exciting is the EV play, of course, right? I mean, part of it is also because of what we hear from the global markets, what's happening in China, what's happening in the US. How do you see that EV trend in India, and what are the biggest opportunities there for from a public markets perspective?
Yes, so good, Gaurav. Actually, this market has gradually been surprising positively for most of the investors.
Right.
Because what we have seen, let's say the scooter, let's say in two-wheelers, we sell close to 20 million each year, and scooter is forming close to 30% of this market, just around that number, right? This market, we have seen the penetration in last 2 to 3 months. The penetration has increased to, just in the scooters, the penetration is close to 5%. So this penetration is increasing. Obviously, all the manufacturers are adopting quite a judicious introduction, because they are going market by market. They're not just launching one product, and that's true for all the markets because that's the nature of it. So, but when we see uh, the number of players who are trying to offer and trying to establish themselves, clearly there are, let's say in two-wheeler itself, I can count 50 odd players who are trying to offer their products, right?
That we know of. There might be others that might be in stealth.
Yes, you're right about that. But again, let's say a large chunk of this market leadership would be sitting with 5 or 6 players. They would be sitting in that unlisted space. But Gaurav, what we have seen even in the past cycles, let's say if we were to go back to 2000, how the leaderships were created in the motorcycle market, where market was changing from scooter to motorcycle, right? And today, 20 years down the line, we see that there are only few brands which are actually dominating the entire space. Let's say there is one specific brand dominating 110cc. Let's say in mid-range, you will find another manufacturer dominating, and that's the one which actually makes a lot of money, because the number 2, number 3 are just making some money of it. So what we will eventually see that some of these leaders who established that specific brand, and that needs actually introducing product is not a big theme. Getting consumer confidence in that brand or that specific product is what is going to create that winning proposition for the manufacturers.
So it's a first to scale, not first to launch.
Yes.
In a way.
And those challenges are to service the expectation of the consumer. That's right. Where we will really see the emergence of new leaders over a period of time. And we have seen how the leaderships change once the product creates its own image or the relationship with the consumers. So I would suggest that at this point in time, unlike let's say in the market of US, one there is very prominent player who is dominating that market. Right. Those things are yet to emerge in the in the space, but there would be opportunities which the investors can certainly identify. What are the goes and no goes with respect to the auto suppliers, right? Because manufacturers actually design the vehicle, but then rest of the large, it's basically an assembled vehicle. So exactly. A chunk of that proposition or opportunity is being also supported by these manufacturers. So clearly, in today's market, these auto suppliers are giving good sort of opportunity to the investors. I can't be name specific in this, but there are opportunities sitting in somebody supplying those motors, somebody supplying. So let's say there are players who are supplying the BMS opportunities or the electronics, which is going to be a big theme, because unlike in past, in this cycle, there will be a lot of electronics, the wiring harness, which would go in these new vehicles, because these are smarter vehicles. One very clear no-go, is this existing lead-acid battery manufacturers, because their whole profit proposition is actually more to do with the replacement demand, right? Yep. So, and the replacement demand is the existing network. But in the new era, we will find that the battery is a lead acid battery, which is actually been guaranteed by the OEM, and there hardly exists a replacement. So, replacement opportunity.
That whole network still needs to be built.
Actually, yeah, one good point. It's a network to be built. Largely, this opportunity looks like will be addressed by the OEMs itself, because this is a good 50, 60, or let's say at least close to 40-50% of the overall cost of the vehicle. And this is once a lifetime, because every 5th or 6th year, depending on how we run, the battery needs to be replaced. So those are the opportunities which, because these are critical ones, they are associated with warranties. guarantee warranty. So the manufacturers would be involved. So clearly that area is yet to emerge. So that's one very clear, or any manufacturer who is directly involved in the value chain for engine or transmission manufacturing, they will face a big challenge. So those are the areas investors should clearly avoid, because you might find the profitability good in near term, but the challenges, so the terminal value that we can ascribe to these companies would be a bit of a challenge. Where in the opportunity side, which I spoke about, I can't be name specific, but many of these companies, you may find that these components today are a very small proportion of the overall company's revenue profitability. But remember, any product cycle of the companies would suggest that there are cash cows and there are incubation period for many products. So you should expect that some of these incubated product would become eventually very big, and the cash cows as of now would support them, and that's how the companies will keep chartering the good growth path for them. So you should look into the balance sheet for what are the exciting opportunities which in the new value chain companies are looking, and obviously the big bet is on how the managements will execute. So big thumbs up to the management, or we have to be very careful which management we are actually going
betting
so,
on.
Yeah. So these are a few things we should. So it requires some hard work, vision of the management, the credibility of management in terms of execution in past, and what are they talking about in the annual report for these companies.
Perfect. Quickly, one quick question on the logistics side. What are you seeing there? What's changing, and what kind of new opportunities are being created on the logistics side of the
yes.
of this space?
So yeah, again, Gaurav, on the logistics side, we've seen many new age, or let's say many entrepreneurs, especially from IITs or maybe even from IIMs, and these are all domestic guys, been supported by a lot of PE guys. They are emerging, and really they have not just created markets for themselves by really challenging this distribution chain or the logistics chain which were existing in past. They've actually created much more affordable solutions for the manufacturers. So a cost of delivery, let's say for an e-commerce in 5 or 6 years back. So e-commerce last mile delivery was hardly existing back in 2013-14. But today there are multiple players. The cost of delivery, let's say in 4 or 5 years itself, has come down from 140 odd rupees for a parcel, which was, let's say, close to 14 odd percent, 14-15%, to now less than 80-85 rupees, which is 88.5%.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. And this is in the era when the cost of people is going up, cost of oil is going up. So what this has created is this opportunity for not just these challenges, but this has also opened up market for a lot of manufacturers, the small manufacturers in tier 3, tier 4 town. Just to give you an example, let's say there is a demand for, so we all know that in tier 3, tier 4 town, there is a demand for a good product, but mostly what they will end up is with a fake product. So they really need a genuine product in those markets. Now the cost of that product to the end consumer is, let's say, 300 rupees. But if for a logistically, if I were to charge him 100 rupees for or 150 rupees for that delivery, he will most likely say no to that, right?
Exactly.
But now if I can deliver that cost at let's say 400, which is the cost of the product, plus 50-60 rupees for the end mile, it creates a new market. That's
even the product manufacturer might be willing to subvent some of that, last delivery costs. So fair enough.
So that's sort of an opportunity which is getting created. There is a good bit of support from the government as well. We've already seen that the dedicated freight corridor will get commissioned. Part of it is already been commissioned. Part will get commissioned in next 1.5 years. The road infrastructure has improved significantly. So I'm really excited about this space because what it will create, let's say this, we've just spoken about one market opportunity in India, but now just if you were to put this market opportunity in export perspective, even if our manufacturers who are not able to even speak to a counterpart in Dubai or Western piece because he could not deliver in next 2 or 3 days, but now with an improved infrastructure where the let's say delivery from Tughlakabad somewhere in Delhi to Bombay was happening in 72 to 80 hours by train. Now, if this can happen in 24, 25 hours, is effectively cutting down 2 days and a further improved infrastructure at the port, it creates a new business opportunity for our entrepreneurs. So
Right.
that's what you will get a new scale in the business, plus the scale for these players in the logistics space. So it's a win-win proposition for both. And that's where you will find newer opportunities in logistics.
Fantastic. One last question is a bit tongue in cheek, but you're the only fund house, UTI Transportation and Logistics Fund. You're the only fund house that has an auto ancillary and logistic fund. Why are other AMCs not? I mean, this is a huge sector, I would believe. Do you expect a lot more fund launches in this space?
So Gaurav,
I mean, I know it's always good to be the only fund doing it because that becomes a massive differentiation. But just kind of like thinking about it from a contrarian perspective.
So Gaurav, I can't speak about the other mutual funds, but it's also a strategy of fund houses with respect to where do they want to channelize their resources in terms of mobilizing the resources. So because it's a sector fund, it's also a bit tricky in the instance that if there are specific opportunities at some point in time. So it is more to do with their strategy and maybe and profitability of those products as well. So that's where, that's where.
But great for you, I would still say, it's fantastic for you because it's a massive sector, and good luck with the fund, and also good luck with managing the whole business cycle. So, and thanks for coming on the Kuvera Insights show. Thanks, Sachin.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks to Team Kuvera, and thanks for hosting me on the channel.
Our pleasure, Sachin.